Director General ILEC, Director Chitale, Professor Nakamura, all delegates and all protocols observed. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Jackson Rainey. I will present on the integrated lake basin management platform process, case of Nakuru. I'll make this presentation on behalf of the ILBM Secretariat in Nakuru, that's comprised of Flamingonet, the Municipal Council of Nakuru, and Kenya Wildlife Service. The structure of this presentation is based on the guidelines of the ILBM platform process, guidelines provided by ILEC. We'll be covering the introduction, description of the lake, that's Lake Nakuru, management of the lake and its basin, the major impact stories of the lake, the major basin government issues, and the ILBM Lake Nakuru case and the key challenges to lake governance. Lake Nakuru is located in Nakuru County, in the Rift Valley province of Kenya. That's about 160 kilometers west of Nairobi. There's a catchment area of about 1,800 square kilometers. It's really a shallow lake. It's only about 4.5 meters at the deepest point. And the lake is known to have dried up severally in the past several years. 1933, 1939, 1947, 1961, 1987, and from 1994 to 1997. In terms of land use, we've had significant changes in the last about 40 years. This is how the catchment of Lake Nakuru looked like in 1970. Most of it was forested, indigenous forest, and we had some large-scale farms to the west and to the north of the lake, and some ranch land on the west. And at that time, Nakuru town was only about 8 square kilometers, with a population of about 20,000 people. And the park area was just the lake itself and the immediate shoreline. By 1998, most of the catchment had been cleared, all the forests had been cleared to give way for a small-scale farming, and all the large-scale farms, actually most of the large-scale farms were subdivided to smaller units and converted into small-scale agriculture. The most significant change was the expansion of the park area to create a buffer zone between the human population and the lake. This was the initiative of the World Wildlife Fund, which raised money to purchase land from the farmers to create the Lake Nakuru National Park, which is now about 188 square kilometers. At that time, it was just about 40 square kilometers, just the lake and its immediate shore. You can see at that time, the town had expanded from just about 8 square kilometers to the current 250 square kilometers. I will give some percentages of the land use patterns. The natural vegetation has reduced from 47% in the 1970s to the current 7%. Large-scale farms have reduced from 34% to the current about 6%. The small-scale farms that were insignificant in 1970 are now comprise about 60% of the catchment. Ranchland has reduced from about 21% to the current 4%. And the Nakuru municipality has also increased from 8.5% to the 290 square kilometers now. We'll talk about the Nakuru National Park. It covers 188 square kilometers. It's one of the most important national parks in Kenya. It was declared a national park in 1957. It was designated as Kenya's first rhino sanctuary in 1987. This was the period when the rhino was facing serious poaching in Africa. In 1990, it was declared as Africa's first Ramsar site. That's a wetland of international importance. And in the year 2005, the Kenya Wildlife Service actually declared it or branded Lake Nakuru as the bird watcher's paradise. In 2009, it was declared an important bird area. that also covered a section of the catchment that is the Mau Forest. It's also an important bird area. More importantly, 2 years ago, in 2011, it was declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In terms of land use, the basin is used for agriculture and settlement, urban development. It's a biodiversity conservation hotspot. We have several forest blocks in East Mau, Bahati, Dondori, and Menengai. It's also a center or a hub for tourism. Approximately 3 million visitors, mostly from Asia, now visit Lake Nakuru. There are several water supply schemes. We have 2 wastewater treatment plants, and therefore the lake is used as a waste assimilation place. We have several education and research centers with transport. That's a airstrips, rail, and railroad network. There are several prehistoric archaeological sites within the basin, as well as commercial minerals and materials. And more recently, from about 2010, we've been carrying out geothermal prospecting in the Menengai crater, and there are some viable prospects there. We plan to generate about 1,600 megawatts in the short term, and in the long term, about 3,000 megawatts from the Menengai crater, which is just to the north of Lake Nakuru. Now, the lake itself is, as I said, very shallow, in a closed basin, on about 4.5 meters. The shoreline fluctuates between 40 and 50 square kilometers, and there are 5 basins. That's of the Njoro, Gosur, Ambiak, Makalia River, and the Berit River. It's a strongly alkaline lake with naturally eutrophic conditions. The mean pH of 10.5, and the conductivity varies between 8.5 and 165 millisiemens per centimeter. This is when the lake is highly flooded, and this is when the lake is almost dry completely, and the conductivity rate and salinity increases significantly. Lake Nakuru, as you know, is known for its millions of flamingos, and therefore flamingos are both a keystone and a flagship species. And for the flamingos to occur in Lake Nakuru, we need this algae. It's called Spirulina arthrospiraformis. Initially, or formerly, it was called Spirulina trapecis. This is the most important or the most desirable food for the flamingos. But in more recent days, because of the increased nutrient loads, we have seen other algae also establishing, particularly the Anabinopsis and the Microcystis, which are also known to elaborate toxins. And these have been associated with the flamingo kills in Lake Nakuru. There are about 6 primary consumers. These are the zooplanktons. We have a fish, a type of fish. It's called Saroteredon Elcatus ramae. This was introduced in the 1950s as a mosquito control program in Nakuru from Lake Magadi, which is to the far south. That's on the border between Kenya and Tanzania. We also have the 2 species of rotifers. This one, Exceptra checine, and this other one, Brachiona species. 1 species of copepod, it's called Lavenula africana. We have several species of chironomids and flagellates, protozoans, like this one here. The Lake Nakuru National Park is known also for its wildlife. We have about 70 species of birds, of mammals. More importantly, it was Kenya's first rhino sanctuary, and it's actually used for breeding of both the black and white rhinos. Currently, we have a total population of about 100 of both species. And you can see these are black rhinos in the Nakuru National Park. For about 2 years now, we've been facing serious poaching incidents. We've lost about 8 of the rhinos. It's also a home to the endangered Rothschild giraffes. And of course, we have several predators, including the lions. Now, the lions of Nakuru are known for climbing trees. So when you come visiting, you have a chance, don't climb a tree because it will follow you up there. So in terms of management of the lake and its basin, we have several lake management institutions, line ministries, several line ministries that are involved in lake management. And we have also had almost 15 different lake management projects in the past close to 20 years, including the most recent JKNM project that closed in 2010, Conservation and East American Vista Mau project that also closed around 2011, and all these projects, most of them closed now. In terms of major impact stories, there are those that are related to the urban, urban origin and those that are of rural origin. And I'll talk about those that are of urban origin shortly. We have problems of vast sewers that eventually end up with the storm water drains and then to the Lake Nakuru. This is the main storm water drain that was constructed by JICA in 1995. And the problem we have is that the facility is no longer functioning as it was, likely because of the poor cleansing services in the town. So all the stormwater drains, especially this main one, is completely clogged, and all the solid waste actually spills over from the stormwater drain into the park and really causes serious pollution. We also have the past sewage also flowing directly into the park, and of course this causes problems because the wildlife now end up consuming the sewage or drinking the sewage water. In terms of lake levels, we've seen the lake levels what's and when. We've had periods of droughts and floods over the past several years, especially the period between 1993 to 1997, the lake dried up almost completely. Now it's flooded and it's caused serious problems because the flamingos have taken off. Now these are the flamingo numbers. In 1991, 92, when we had the first mass mortality of flamingos, we had almost 1.8 million flamingos on Lake Nakuru. And the population dropped significantly when the lake dried up almost completely. And then it's been increasing and decreasing depending on the lake levels. But this period from 2008 to currently, we have very few flamingos remaining at Lake Nakuru. And most of them are actually in the neighboring lakes of Baringo and Lake Bogoria and Lake Magadi. We've had several episodes of flamingo deaths, mass flamingo deaths, and this was the case in 2006, where we lost almost 50,000 birds at Agor in a period of just about 1 month. The catchment basin has seen a lot of pressure in the Mau and in the adjacent forest, and this is a scenario that we normally see when, especially when the Mau forest was gazetted in the year 2001. There was mass destruction and burning of vegetation in the basin. I don't know if that's clear enough. In terms of the major lake basin governance issues, we have the issues of the diffuse nature of jurisdiction that is scattered across various sectoral laws. We have had 20 disjointed environmental management initiatives. We do not have a joint management committee yet. The lake is actually located in an area that is administered by almost 5 different districts that are independent with district environment committees. Then we have different laws and over 26 different laws and policies as well as plans. And then very limited information flow between the universities and the stakeholders, and the challenge of low funding from government and having no funding specific for the LBM platform process. And now I'll discuss on what we've done as far as the 6 pillars of lake governance are concerned. The LBM platform process was introduced in Nakuru in 2011. And the 6 pillars of LBM discussed the institutions, people's participation, the policies, the technology, information and finance. This was the very first launching workshop in Nakuru in December 2011. where all the stakeholders in Nakuru are invited to discuss also the 6 pillars of lake basin governance. And about 3 years later, or a year later, we met with the UNEP forum, where we also discussed about the LPM platform process. Now, what we did in Nakuru, the first LPM platform activity was to prepare the Nakuru Lake Brief. We prepared the initial version in a PowerPoint and shared amongst the stakeholders. They came together and discussed the platform, the PowerPoint Lake Brief, and we prepared a narrative, which we shared amongst ourselves and also with ILEC. Thereafter, we used the issue challenge 6 pillar matrix, those 6 pillars of lake basin governance, and analyzed issues, needs and challenges, and then also mobilized, collected information from our database and prepared a lake brief that's a narrative form. And we also came up with indicators that will help us know whether we are achieving our objectives in strengthening each of those 6 pillars of lake basin governance. So in Nakuru, we've gone beyond the lake brief, the Nakuru LPM platform process. This is a multi-stakeholder process comprising of the central government, the county government, the line ministries, the local authorities, particularly the county council, the civil society organizations, including the international organizations, the national, the governmental organizations, the community-based organizations, including village development committees, the water resource use associations, and the community forest associations. We also have state corporations, universities, and the private sector, especially the Nakuru Business Association. So the analysis of issues and challenges in respect to the 6 pillars, we used this matrix here, where we identify the issues, the challenges, then the 6 pillars, that's the institutions here, the policies, participation of the stakeholders, the technological interventions that have been applied in Nakuru so far, the information and the finances. Then we proposed various approaches and responsibilities of the stakeholders. These are some of the outcomes. We identified various issues like the issue of facilitation. KWS committed to undertake various activities. Issues of enforcement, the National Environment Management Authority also committed to undertake various aspects there. And the issues of solid waste management, we had the municipal council also committing to undertake various activities. Now, the use of LPM examples, it's, we can actually use it to strengthen institutional linkages, especially for the institutions that have already committed to an MOU to conserve Lake Nakuru. You can also use it to actually improve people's participation and also livelihoods, like mobilize the community to undertake soil and water conservation, water harvesting, both from roadside runoff and from the rainwater, energy conservation at household level, and also promoting dairy goats as alternatives to improve household nutrition as well as incomes. And also use it to implement participatory management plans for like community forest associations, which are already being developed, and also the water resource use associations. LPM platform process is also used for networking and amongst other other initiatives that are in place. For instance, this East African Great Lakes Observatory workshop that was held in Nairobi in April 2012. The challenges, as my colleague Dr. Olana said, poverty and the poor living standards of human communities, the management gaps to establish, to support community-based organizations, the inadequate training, the education and awareness, the high water loss from the waste treatment plants, the issue of effluent discharges from the industrial operations, the issue of non-compliance by factories to NEMA and municipal council bylaws. This is one of the examples of the technological problems that we have. This is the seepage leakage points from one of the lagoons that is handling sewage from the industrial area. These facilities were constructed with the JICA funding, Cyan loan, but they actually basically started from malfunctioning just barely about 10 years after construction. These are the suspected leachate points from one of the lagoons that is handling about 6,000 cubic meters of sewage per day. Then, of course, the challenge of mobilizing funding. So far, it's only the African Development Bank and the AFDB that have shown some interest in supporting environmental sanitation sectors within the municipality. And basically, what we've seen is that generally donors tend to operate under different objectives, conservation approaches, and funding regimes, and sometimes that causes overlaps and duplication. There's generally low funding from government, and there's really no specific fund for LBM. And then the sporadic, marginal sporadic investment in environmental research. Thank you very much.